Welcome back to the Metal Roundup, your one-stop shop to catch up in a more discussion kind of way on what's been happening in the latest. Let's keep that.
We're keeping it. We're keeping it.
Skadoosh.
You're not
Skibbity-doo.
allowed to
Skibbity-bop.
stop. Keep going, Steve. It's staying in.
What do we start off with?
This
Steve?
is gold. The latest happenings in the metal music scene, including we're going to talk about the Linkin Park new singer and their new music. What do we think about that collectively? I think we might have some different opinions. We'll get into that. Also, new releases around the metal universe as well that we think are exciting or less exciting. We'll find out. But first, folks, how are you? What's new in your world in terms of music and metal? Burb, how you been?
Good, man. Good. You know, I've mentioned on the pod before that I feel like, summer was a little bit of a lull, but September, man, I feel like September's been stacked. So the content creation game has been busy. I have a couple of ideas for future content. I don't want to spoil it yet because I feel like the more you talk about you're going to do something, the less likely it's going to happen. But I have some exciting things planned for my own channel very soon. So stoked about that. What about you, Drew?
Yeah, man. I'm good. I think we could easily just brush over this. It's a good point to talk about it, but cheers to you lot for 1,000.
Oh yeah, we
on
asked
the
people to
channel.
help us.
Maybe we
and
should
have
be
a
cheers.
Shout out to the viewers.
Yeah, shout out to the viewers. Cheers, guys.
cheers, viewers.
That might be. I mean, I'm good. No, it's same old for me, so we can brush over me. But I'd like to get. Just before we get into it, what is you guys' opinions just on the growth of the podcast so far? Because I think, like you said in a lovely message, Steve, when myself, Burb, and Steve were talking about it in our little group chat. Yeah, I think with the numbers of like videos and stuff and subscriber counts, you can get very like lost in realizing how like cool it is that like that many people will actually subscribe. Because obviously, like if you reach certain milestones, I remember when I hit 1,000 subscribers on my main account like years ago. And it was like the biggest moments. Like it's like such a huge moment. And obviously hitting it with the Metal Roundup, it was kind of like a great moment. And it was like, oh, this is cool. This is getting some traction. People are enjoying the chats. But I think Steve just kind of reminded me of what I used to think of how big of a deal that was, So I don't know. It was kind of a cool little moment to see that people are actually resonating with the episodes.
It was like the first time all over again of getting 1,000. But I think this is different as well because part of your brain, especially if you're doing reaction content, you will think, well, maybe they're subscribing because they like just the songs that I'm checking out. It's their taste in music, right? You kind of, the risk is you separate yourself. Understandably for some people, some viewers just want the music itself. But like maybe it's not about me and what I'm doing. But for this podcast to get 1,000 subscribers, there's 1,000 people that enjoy just us chatting about the things that they also care about and enjoy chatting about themselves. That's really fucking cool and validating. And the comments as well have been so cool to read. Loving it, having a blast.
Yeah, and it's not just that, but like we get more views than our sub count. Like some of our videos get 2,000 to 3,000 views, and we have 1,000 subscribers. So yeah, I know it's cheesy to thank the audience. Like, thank you. We couldn't be here without you. But like, no, like it's actually cool that you guys enjoy us just talking about random music stuff. And I think it's because like it's really hard to talk about this stuff with people in like the real world. That's why we have to resort to being in Canada, Ireland, and the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah. But no,
that
cool.
says it all of how rare it is to find people in your neighborhood who can talk about metal, but also can talk with opinions and not be like, well, you're just fucking wrong. That band's trash.
Maybe we should be like that though. Stir up some controversy.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. It's nice that it's like a collaborative project as well. I've never really worked on something YouTube-wise that's been collaborative that I can think of. Obviously, you might do the odd like feature on someone's channel or like doing a collab that way, but actually having a side quest that is like a collaborative side quest is pretty cool as well. So
true, yeah.
It all started from a few beers, and look where we are now.
Hell yeah.
Still drinking.
Hell yeah. Maybe we can do it again sometime soon because there's some exciting news and tours and everything. But Steve, I'll let
Are you going to Paris, Metal Burb?
Oh, I want to. I got to practice my French. Oui, croissant, croissant.
You've got it. You're fluent.
Yeah,
Linkin Park.
But yeah,
Linkin Park announced that they're playing a gig in Paris with support from Sleep Token, and the world have collectively lost their minds with excitement because that's a banger of a fucking lineup. Those are two heavyweight acts in one go.
With Bad Omens too.
Are they actually playing that one?
Yeah, Sleep Token, Bad Omens, and Linkin Park.
Bad Omens on the same show in Paris?
Wait. So they
Because
put it all in one poster.
Oh, did they?
Oh,
But
okay.
they could. I heard that it's just one show, Sleep Token. I assumed it's Bad Omens. Maybe I'm wrong. I think there's some confusion because they just kind of posted it and then everyone.
Clearly.
I thought like it's like a tour with all of them, like 3 shows, but no, it's just Paris. I assume it's Bad Omens, Sleep Token, Linkin Park. That would be a dream come true.
That's a fucking heavy lineup.
Ah, right. So I'm looking at it now. Yeah, you're correct. Sleep Token and Bad Omens are on the image, but there are little asterisks next to it.
Oh,
so
right.
November 8th,
They got you.
Bad Omens and Gene Dawson and Helmet are the supports. But only on November 3rd is it Sleep Token. And it's just them, seemingly.
Still though.
But yeah.
Still.
What a
gig.
gig.
All the names on a poster.
Either way.
Either way.
Should we go to Paris on the 3rd of November?
Yeah, if we can get tickets.
Let's go.
What are we doing? Let's not look at the calendars now, but we'll have a look.
I know.
But yeah, that'd be sick.
That'd be amazing.
Lineup. Although, saying that, and this will surprise no one if they saw my reaction to the live reveal of the new Linkin Park, the new singer. I was sufficiently not stoked about Linkin Park's latest kind of sound that I was not interested in buying tickets for the London one. I didn't even try. It's like, actually, but caveat or context, I've seen Linkin Park with Chester playing Hybrid Theory in full. So like, I don't want to chase that dragon and be disappointed, you know?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I remember last pod, we were trying to figure out what's happening with Linkin Park. And so for me, I was saying like, oh, I would love it if, they brought a new vocalist and they brought back their edge. And for me, that's kind of what they're doing. So I'm so excited. Now, I'm not the biggest Linkin Park fanboy. I've always loved their singles and a lot of like random songs that I heard, but I never really checked out their albums or even seen them live. But I feel like the new songs to me, like, oof, I love the Emptiness Machine, man. That song has been relentlessly stuck in my head.
It's catchy.
It's so catchy.
Very catchy.
Very, very catchy. Drew, you like it too, right?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I kind of made the same points. I guess for context, for anyone who's not up to date and maybe they're watching the first episode of us, the last pod, I know Bert mentioned it, but the last pod, we literally finished up the podcasts, and that was the same night that Linkin Park did the live show and they announced Emily Armstrong to the world. And ironically, or coincidentally, I suppose is probably the best way to put it, is today they've actually dropped their second single with Emily Armstrong. So we're now a little bit more informed. We're not like talking about it. Oh, what's going to happen, or what's this next single going to be about? We actually know, which is nice instead of just guessing. But yeah, no, I kind of said the same when I heard the Emptiness Machine for the first time. That it doesn't, like, from a live show standpoint, it doesn't really excite me that way. I'd probably be in the same boat. I haven't seen Linkin Park before, Steve, but I probably would be in the same boat. That it just doesn't appeal to me much, seeing them with Emily, as much as it would if it was Chester, which I don't think is that outrageous to say.
That's not controversial. That makes sense, right? Because he was instrumental in what that band was and why they become the huge behemoth that they ended up becoming. Without him, they probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, I know. For me, though, I feel like this is like the new chapter, and there's a lot of excitement and a lot of hype that the shows will be fun and eventful because of that.
Yeah, probably, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at the band. Like, I'm delighted that they can play live and keep playing their songs, and like I'm glad that the fans out there really like it. But like, it's not. It's not for me. And that's fine. I think it's fine. The songs are all right. I don't think they're very interesting, and I think the mix is just a little bit mid. Like, it's very well balanced, which is a good thing, but there's no oomph. Now the second single had a bit more oomph,
a little bit more bass for sure. Well, what do you think about that 15-second scream? Come on.
Well, I knew that was coming, because as I loaded up YouTube is like, you want to watch Drew Fortune's reaction to this, and I saw the thumbnail. It's just like 15-second scream. It's like, well, I know there's gonna be a 15-second scream at some point in this song. It's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Occupational hazard.
Well, that's the problem with the reaction game, right? We're all making thumbnails and what's clickable. Then because we're spoiling things for each other, right? So it's like almost like I kind of like want to unsubscribe from everyone, so I just don't get spoilers from things.
Yeah,
Don't you
for
dare.
sure.
No,
To get there faster, man. Just you have to spoil it for me next time. You know.
yeah.
I was at my job, and then I had kids to look after.
Not good enough.
I
Don't
know.
want to hear
Excuses.
Do better.
Excuses.
Irrelevant.
But yeah, no, I don't know. Like, we've so much to talk about with just Linkin Park alone. Like, we haven't really discussed our opinions of everything that's gone on with Emily Armstrong. I don't know how deep we want to go into it because obviously there's been so much. There's the new members. There's the new track, "The Emptiness Machine," which we haven't talked about exclusively. There's the new song "Today," which people have mixed opinions on. Should we jump straight into the new song today and our opinions? I've watched both of your videos. I know Steve said he didn't get a chance to watch mine.
I watched both your videos too. Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of have a rough idea.
I don't know your guys' takes. You might as well.
Yeah. You take the wheel, Burp. You fire away.
What's your thoughts, Burp? Well, you kind of hinted that you really liked it.
Well, my thumbnails and titles can be a little bit different than the videos sometimes, right? But I am impressed with her scream, like in the breakdown. That's definitely the highlight of the song. And to me, that is still the highlight. But I found the chorus not as memorable as "The Emptiness Machine." I found it like it's like a pretty safe song, and it makes sense because it's for League of Legends anthem. It's not going to be something crazy or weird. And I listened to Linkin Park's music thinking it's not going to be the craziest thing out there. It's just going to be a solid rock song. And this, to me, it was. It felt similar to Minutes of Midnight, which is an album that I recently just checked out, even though I heard the singles. But then it's like kind of Meteora too. So it's cool. It's appealing to that fan base of people that want old school Linkin Park. So there was a comment on my Linkin Park video. First of all, I should mention that I like "The Emptiness Machine" more, but the comment said like, "Oh, I actually like this song more." And I just replied back basically saying like, "Oh, that's awesome," because that it doesn't matter like what song is better. It's the fact that if someone likes this song and I like this song, then Linkin Park is doing a good job at appealing to their wide fan base, which is what they need to do. Not if every song sound the same, then it'd be like, okay. But the fact that we have two different sounding songs, I'm stoked. But yeah, I'm more of a fan of "Emptiness Machine" personally.
You're right. It's a good sign actually that people have different favorites. That does hint that the songs aren't completely the same level of kind of whatever, right? There's something different enough about them that people gravitate to. It's no bad thing.
Yep.
Drew?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Burb. I prefer "The Emptiness Machine." Obviously, maybe there's like the less shock value involved in the new song now. I'd love to see the parallel universe where they flipped. I think maybe the response, I'd be curious to see what the response would have been to that song dropping, because "The Emptiness Machine" is definitely a little bit more leaning towards like radio rock. It's a little bit, I think they're both quite safe songs.
Both are, yeah.
They're both quite safe songs, but I feel like just there's something about "The Emptiness Machine" chorus and just the overall vibe of it, because it doesn't really include the big scream moment. I think the big scream moment and just the general kind of like slightly heavier elements to the newer track makes it lean a little bit more away from the radio friendly. I think they're both still quite safe and could easily be played on the radio, but definitely "The Emptiness Machine" was like, probably let's try and get this as many places as possible to let people know that Linkin Park are back. And then, the next one is like, okay, now let's maybe appeal to
and take it up a gear, right? Like,
yeah, take it up a gear and maybe show off that Emily can do the screams. But I guess that's still not really that much of a shock because everyone's seen the live performances now and knew she could scream. So it's kind of hard to know. Like, maybe the shock value of it is a little bit taken back. But I just think from what I've seen across my own Discord community and just on YouTube comments, I think people are enjoying both for the most part. But I think "The Emptiness Machine" seems to be the one that people are still siding with,
What's interesting, it was a take in Discord that I saw, which was that they're kind of surprised they've gone for this 15-second long screen, because it sort of does what Chester did in one of the songs quite famously. It's like, are they trying to really show like this is the new person could do that and maybe better in their own way? Like it's so like for like as a concept to have had that held scream, which is a famous thing. It's like some people felt that was a bit too on the nose, and maybe that's why they didn't open with that as their first single, because it maybe seems more like we're trying to sort of erase the Chester and be like, this is Chester but new and better, like, so maybe there's a delicacy there. I'm not sure, but
I think that's spot on. Yeah, to me right away, I'm like, this is kind of like giving up the way that she's screaming. And yeah, it's a little too on the nose for sure. That's what I mean. This Linkin Park song really feels like it's just trying to play to the OG fans who liked, Meteora, maybe some Hybrid Theory and like Minutes to Midnight kind of stuff. So it was a solid song. And I'm glad, one thing I'm really glad about with this is that I'm not seeing comments talking about how disgusting Emily Armstrong is for her background.
Yeah, no one's
in
mentioned Scientology.
Oh, so the thing is, I made a video about it because I was just so tired of the comments. Like, can we just focus on the song and them coming back? And just the drama and controversy was getting annoying. But so just seeing the comments now in my new video for them, just being focused on the song is just so much more pleasant. And I do find that the controversy around it is, I don't like knowing these personal affairs from these artists, so it's kind of like unfortunate, but at the same time, like, it doesn't matter to my day-to-day life. Like, I don't think about Scientology on my day-to-day life.
No,
like,
not the first thing you think of in the morning.
No. So it doesn't really.
How do we deal with these Scientologists?
Yeah, it does not affect me, but I just want to go in, listen to music, talk about the music. And so when the comments were all about in the emptiness machine, Scientologists, they don't even say anything about the song. Like, Emily's a Scientologist. Like, that's the comment.
Yeah.
Just like,
and therefore the music's invalid. Like what we say.
So it was frustrating. And I think it's very frustrating for the band. No one is perfect, and I don't need to know their personal affairs. So that's just kind of how I felt to summarize it. But what are your guys' thoughts on the whole controversy thing?
Yeah, I don't really give a fuck if someone's a Scientologist enough. I mean, because I put that in a similar thing as like, well, it's someone's religious beliefs ultimately, and you could have a whole conversation about which religions are more extreme for various reasons than the rest, but it's someone's chosen way to live their life in a purposeful sort of way. The details of that are kind of, for some people, they will be really important because maybe for them, a religious aspect of life is key for everything. And therefore they won't be able to enjoy music if there is an opposing view to their own about religious beliefs, whatever that is. And I get that. This is the thing. Everyone has their own different compass internally as to what matters that a singer or musician in a band does or doesn't do that affects you liking the music or not. And that's, it's everyone's entire justification, and if they're fair enough in their own reasons. I don't care personally about the Scientology aspect. I know Scientology is pretty fucked up.
They've done so. It's not just like a regular religion. They have some bad history with like child trafficking and
but you know what? So does Catholicism. Not that we're getting into this, but like
totally.
A lot of religions have some controversial things that happen to them, and like either you care enough about those aspects and in your day to day and how you want to represent yourself with what you do or do not listen to, or that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I still feel like Scientology is way more cult-like, and they will harm people for leaving. And Emily being born into it is also another thing to consider. And one thing that got overlooked in the whole conversation, I didn't even know this when I made my initial response video, was that Emily is openly gay, which I had no idea, and Scientology is super against that. So it kind of like there's one big hole in that argument that, she's a purist Scientologist, for her to be openly gay like that too. So to me, I just found that interesting that no one ever brought that up in conversation.
Yeah, I hope people didn't, because who cares? Who cares if someone's gay or straight or whatever? It shouldn't make a fucking bit of difference. But I can see how that's interesting if that perhaps completely undercuts the argument that she's a diehard Scientologist, if that's completely counter to that belief system. I'd be surprised if it was, because Scientology is quite a modern religion, and that's, I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know the details of it.
Look into it, man. It's weird.
I don't think I want to go down that rabbit hole.
That's the thing. That's the thing, man. It's like, I had to think about it because I was like, okay, look, people are obviously bringing things up. I could delve deep into research on this, but I kind of just landed on there's not a single vocalist on earth that I personally believe that Linkin Park could have brought on board that something would have been dragged up from their past.
Yep.
Regardless of who they are. I think when you're in like a position of that much media scrutiny and onslaught, like of just all these new eyes coming out, like I don't think there's going to be, like, if you put me as a Linkin Park vocalist It's
What
game
would we
over.
find
You know
out,
what I
Drew?
mean?
What would we
Emily
find out?
Armstrong's starting to look like a saint here. You know what I mean? So
Why isn't Drew the vocalist, man?
I kind of think of it that way, man. I'm like, look, the majority of the people that comment on these fucking videos, man, they're probably just like, look in the mirror and tell me that you are fucking perfect. Like, I'm not trying to justify like Scientology. Quite frankly, I'm on the same boat as you guys, where I just don't have enough time in my day to research every single topic that's wrong in the entire world. So look, there's another one to tick off the list that I'll get to at some point, Scientology. But like, there's very few people on Earth that you're going to find that. I think it speaks more probably about like just cancel culture and the internet in general.
Yep.
No matter fucking what. I know some people will just be like, oh, well, let's just discard everything then, because like you can just say, oh, well, everyone's trying to cancel out. It's like, I just don't see. I've seen enough of these things happen where it's like someone gets brought into the spotlight, and all of a sudden, that moment is like tainted because someone has gone Google this person, and there's like a whole.
Here's a tweet from 9 years ago that they want. Oh.
And it's like there's just no room for anyone to be rehabilitated from if something that they've done in the past. There's no room for anyone to have changed. It's just so it gets exhausting, you know, man. It's like, I think a lot of these people that complain about stuff would hate to be in that position where someone brings up something from their past, but they're sitting behind their screens and they know that they're not really in a position where someone's going to ever do that. So they're chilling, you know? So look, I see both sides, man. I do, because it's you don't want to swing too far one way where it's like, you know, everyone can get away with everything because it's all in the past, because there is certain lines for sure. But then
they're personal.
There just has to be a balance. A lot of people, the internet doesn't have that balance. That's the problem.
No, and things change and things evolve too. That's another thing. Like the things that we thought were maybe morally okay, like 20 years ago, is now not okay. You know, we grow as a society, so that for people to be getting canceled over things in the past and disregarding that people can also evolve and change and mature, like, and
because society does.
Yeah. So it's frustrating. So yeah, to me, I cannot stand the whole cancel culture and internet bullying mentality. I'm not a fan of that. Scientology is definitely a weird ass cult, but I'm not holding it against Emily, because to me,
sleep token.
Yeah, sleep token could be, right. They definitely look like they are, right? But to me, I'm not, it doesn't affect my day to day. Instead, I listen to Linkin Park for their music. Like, I don't care about their personal affairs. Now, I will say, you know, to disregard internet, like cancel culture, there's definitely a need to have morals and what determines what's good or bad. And that's where I kind of just like look into the law. And if like someone's an actual convict and someone actually did something illegal, then that's where I can justify, okay, I don't really feel good about this. And one example of that to me is As I Lay Dying, you know, with Tim. It's never sat well with me when I check out his music, but I never really talk about it, but it's not like I'm ignoring it. I think with Tim, his background, like are you guys familiar with what happened?
I don't know this. I don't think.
Oh, this is Tim Labisse is from As I Lay Dying. Drew, do you know it? Am I breaking the news to you guys? Wow.
I'm not into As I Lay Dying, so I like
As I Lay Dying track. So
oh my god, this is huge. This is
people
one of
are
the
screaming
biggest
at their YouTubes right now, being like, "How the fuck do these metal reactors not know?"
So the Tim Labisse story is one of the craziest stories in metalcore music. Period. As I Lay Dying, you know, were pretty much at their peak in like the early 2000s, and Tim Labisse started like. The long story is, you know, he started getting into roids, and he got like a little bit jacked up, and then he found someone at the gym that he would talk to. He eventually told this person at the gym that he wanted to put a hit on his wife.
Oh,
that person at the gym was actually an undercover cop. So he
couldn't
have picked a worse.
I have to feel for him, man, honestly.
A lot of it is, you know, he has talked about roid rage and his you know, losing faith in God as examples for him to go down that dark path. But essentially he's a convicted felon. He tried to put a hit on his wife, but since he's gone out of jail, and like this was news, like big news, all like the biggest news tabloids were talking about it too, right? But since then, you know, he's really trying to turn himself around. He's actually, you know, talking about how wrong he is, and the new songs are showcasing dealing with his like dark demons kind of thing. So he is trying to reinvent himself. So that's why I still will check out As I Lay Dying music, but it definitely does still leave a bad taste in my mouth. And also a lot of people still like look up to him. Like I know Garrett Russell is friends with Tim Lebesis, and there's a lot of it. Tom Barber was recently just featured on As I Lay Dying. Like he's still like, I've heard that he's a good guy, but he did do a really fucking bad mistake that is like pretty much almost unforgivable kind of thing. How can you trust someone like that again that wanted to, kill his wife?
It's fucked up, but I don't think that means that you couldn't possibly I think there is a possibility that people could walk so close to for lack of a better phrase, like to the fires of hell that they go like, oh my God, actually I've learnt and I'm never going anywhere near that horrendous idea that I had before. And actually you could become an incredible person as a result of how close to something horribly dark they got to. I think that's entirely as a possible thing. We just have this mindset somehow that no one can ever redeem themselves or learn from mistakes or learn from horrendous things they've done and be like, you're now doomed to be exiled forevermore or like sentenced to death. Like, what is that the world we want to live in? Because we also know we live in a world where people are getting falsely accused occasionally. Thankfully, it's rare because we have due process and arrest. But that does happen from time to time in humanity. And when that happens, you risk potentially putting someone to death in certain places in the States for something maybe they didn't actually do. So we do not necessarily have an exact accurate detail on who should be doomed forever and who shouldn't. So we just have a little bit of grace and forgiveness and trying to help people that can, potentially improve and inspire others. You know what? I went to a really dark place. Let me tell you how fucking shit that was. And I don't want anyone else to risk doing something moronic like I did. Let me, shout about that in songs. Like there's a value to that as well.
And and that's what Tim is doing lately. So that's why I'm covering the music. But yeah, like, if you open up the internet, like with Twitter or Reddit, it's just going to be like, oof, like the comments.
Do you have to post and ghost when you put...
I think how I started my reaction was just like, oh, Twitter and Reddit's going to have a field day with this one. This is As I Lay Dying. Like, I acknowledge that there's going to be controversy around it, but I love the music. Like, As I Lay Dying's old albums are just awesome. Like, they still sound great today. Definitely recommend you guys do a deep dive into
I know
music.
I've heard them from time to time. It's never quite grabbed me for some reason, but I'll have to give them another listen.
Good, heavy, riffy metalcore.
Speaking of sort of a link, redemption stories, not really a redemption story, but a life change story. One artist I really enjoy is Beartooth, who a lot of their songs used to be incredibly depressing and dark and difficult. He's a very tormented soul. But his most recent album, The Surface, was much more positive about turning your life around and mental health, the rest. His latest song is fucking great. Very simple, very catchy. I fucking loved it. I don't know if Drew, it's quite in your wheelhouse.
I've still not listened to that album. I'm sorry. You specifically told me when you were in Ireland when we met up that you were like, "This is your homework," and I've been a bold boy. Sorry.
I wonder if you'd like it, Drew. I don't know if it's. I think
I've heard like maybe the odd snippet from joining into Steve's streams and stuff. And yeah, it seems it's kind of like similar to Bill Murray, like good vibes. Yeah, it's the latest vibes, album. That is.
Yeah. Drew's so hard to impress these days, honestly. He's so hard to impress musically.
I know.
How are you doing, man?
Fucking bollocks, haven't I? Well, I think I kind of fucked myself last year. I reacted to like 150 albums last year or some shit. Like an absolutely outrageous amount of albums. And I think I just heard every sound possible.
Every song structure, every chord progression.
Everything. And I was like, well, I've heard this before. But in saying that, I have this thing. I kind of like it though, because when I do find a song that I really fuck with, it just hits. It's like I get that like rushing. I used to kind of get that all the time with like a lot of the songs because everything was so new to me. Like when I first found metalcore, it was like the most basic metalcore song ever. And I was like, breakdowns, because I kind of came from like listening to more drawn out prog music. I did like the opposite approach where it was like a lot of people start with more simple gateway metalcore stuff and then get into the more technical prog stuff. Whereas I kind of started with like Dream Theater, Tool. And then I loved all that. And then realized, hold on a minute, I don't have to go through 10 minutes for the breakdown. I can just get a nice bite-sized piece of metal in metalcore. So when I started to find like really basic metalcore songs, I was like, holy shit. So I did like 100 plus albums of metalcore just in 2023. And I think I just burnt myself out on metalcore so quickly, which I don't know if that says much about me or metalcore. I don't know what that says Is it saying more about me or metalcore? Because I know a lot of people just kind of say that metalcore is just repeating the same shit for years. But there has been a few songs that has really caught me. I'm kind of just going back to like simple shit. There's a new band that I don't know if you guys have heard yet, but this one really, really got me going. I did like a YouTube, and I haven't put it up on YouTube yet, but I put it on TikTok. They're called The Dark.
I've seen that name pop up, but I've not heard.
Yeah, they've literally got one song. The song is called Chemicals, and it sounds so close to, you know, the kind of like eerie, drony, like industrial sound that Silent Planet has at the start of Antimatter. The like kind of
nice.
monotone spoken word thing. It's very Silent Planet coded, like the Antimatter track, but it's really, really good. So if you're looking for something simple, give that a shot. Vocals are really good. The chorus, it's like Antimatter with like a collider chorus. It's like kind of colliding, pardon the pun, but it kind of collides those two parts of Silent Planet, puts it together. That's really, really sick. Yeah, for sure, man. It's literally like the verses are very similar to Antimatter, and then the chorus is very similar to Collider. But I really fuck with that. It's metalcore. You know, I'm not gonna oversell it. It is still just metalcore, but it sounds great. I know Burb has been high on Disembodied Tyrant. I have been as well. I haven't heard the new EP, but I did hear the outro track. Was it Malphasian?
Yeah, some cool moments in that.
Yeah, that was really sick as well. So there is songs still that get me, but I just think like obviously the more exposure you have to, you know, metalcore breakdowns, certain prog tracks, certain deathcore tracks, it's just like, but when you find that track, it's a great moment. You know, I just don't have as many of those moments anymore.
Yep.
Which is sad, but when I find them, it's fucking yes.
I think part of it is exposure, but I don't think that's the full story, because I spent years adoring pop punk. And that's very similar in kind of style and sound and the rest, but I loved it because I don't even know fucking why, but I loved that sound. And there was something different about metalcore, I think, because it's sort of like a thriller horror movie in music form. Now that everyone can make really high quality production of drums and bass and crazy guitar sounds, it's easier for lots of people to be like, I'll make a crazy song with crazy breakdowns. And some people do that in a very well knit together, creative and satisfying, musically interesting way. And others do it as a collection of riffs and breakdowns. One of those things is more satisfying and interesting to listen to than other ones. So there's metalcore songs that I'll hear that I get requested, and I think this is just like metalcore by numbers. This isn't very interesting. The chorus is like, I can see they're doing a sonic catchy chorus, but I don't really feel it, I don't really like it. Then another band comes along, doing also a kind of predictable metalcore song, but they're fucking amazing. There is a difference. It's really hard to put my finger on it. There's something different in the songwriting, in the melody choices, and in the way a song develops, or transitions between sections, perhaps. And the problem we have is so many bands have poured into the metalcore scene that the chances of finding the rare ones that really did it intentionally because they love that and they wanted to fine-tune their creativity into metalcore are harder to pick out. So that's, I think, where we'll get a bit of the stale of, okay, it's all kind of similar of people that are just jumping in, which is eventually what happened to pop punk. Once everyone jumped on that bandwagon, the next pop punk band comes out, you're like, we've heard this all before. You just want to be a pop punk star. And then people started writing songs about how everyone's got punk rock 101 and everyone's doing the same thing. That's just the phase we're in metalcore. There's still gold there. Just like there's amazing pop punk songs that are coming out this year. There's one from Neck Deep called Dumbstruck Dumbfuck, which I get a masterpiece. It's a fucking amazing song. And I've heard like every pop punk song under the sun, but that song was fucking incredible. It takes a bit of extra creativity and uniqueness to bring the life out of a particular genre and the rest. So there's still hope for metalcore. And,
for sure. Yeah.
You know, there's some new bands doing it who are fucking brilliant. And those are the ones that deserve the extra attention and the shout outs, I think.
I think most subgenres have that problem, though. Like metalcore, even like deathcore can feel samey too after some time. Metalcore is definitely one of the most oversaturated genres for sure. And but going back to that Beartooth song, because I wanted to talk about my thoughts, but I found the new Beartooth song actually quite meh. I did not care for it. I wanted to see.
You're
if
not
you said
alone.
it.
I know others are just
You're
like,
lying.
this is very simple. It's kind of cringe or whatever.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
I thought also the lyrical theme to it didn't have too much substance, which is one of the things I loved about The Surface, which had so much positive. Like people like to throw around the term toxic positivity, and I really feel like since the scene is so lacking, that Beartooth is like a refreshing take on actually having that positive mindset. So I found the lyrics in The Surface just being so good. Like tracks like Doubt Me, Don't Ever Fucking Doubt Me kind of thing, and when that breakdown hits, I'm like, oh yeah, like like I love it. And then with the new song, it was like a little bit safe. It had like a cool retro feel too, but overall it's a fun vibe. So I do find Beartooth's vibe is refreshing, and I do find that a lot of the scene overall is very samey. And Drew, if what I do is to not feel that fatigue, covering metalcore nonstop. I listen to I don't really listen to a lot of music on my spare time. It's usually podcasts, YouTube videos. So when I do my Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, I'm going to look like the biggest poser. Like it's going to be like classical music, some jazz music, some podcasts. Like I really don't listen to a lot of metal music. So that way, when I do the live streams, I'm feeling like excited to check out those songs. And I also, my live streams are so much more different than my YouTube content. I don't know if it's like you guys too, where a lot of the songs that people show me are so weird and different genres. And, I can't really make videos for it because it doesn't make sense for the channel. But I listen to a lot of like genres outside of metal that keeps things interesting. And then when I do hear that one metalcore song, it fucking stands out. And actually, this is a good segue because I really want to talk about this album. This album from a metalcore band really shocked me because I couldn't tell if I was having metalcore fatigue, right? Or if it was just maybe there hasn't been that much good metalcore music. Now, I still can't really figure it out, but this album really surprised me by 156 Silence. And I know, Steve, I know you like them. So I checked out the songs, and I know you said in your title, like, this song is a Song of the Year contender or something. And I remember listening to it, I'm like, this is a sick song, but I don't know if it's like Song of the Year for me. But then I listened to the album from start to finish, and the album was just like, whoa. Like this is,
I can't wait to hear it. Everyone's raving about it. I've just heard, I think I've heard 2, maybe 3 songs by them. But yeah, Better Written Villain was the single, which I genuinely think is one of my favorite songs of this year.
It's a good song, man.
Oh, it's a grower. It's loopable. It's so satisfying. And they're there's 2 of the songs I listened to. One I thought it was a product placement. I thought it was all right. That was solid. It was pretty decent. And the most recent one I thought was great. There's a bit of range within even just those 3 songs. So I can't wait to hear the album. Yeah. Everyone's like, fucking listen to it. I just need the time.
Imagine the album now with all those different kind of singles. The album pacing, to me, it's like one of the best well-paced albums of the year.
Oh, like, Jesus.
Like, I'm not saying it's like one of the best albums of the year, but in terms of pacing and like, ebbing and flowing from like the different kind of tracks and the transitions, it's just like, it actually is like an album, not just a collection of songs. So I was really impressed by the new album. And I think Drew might like it too.
Yeah, I've heard Better Written Villain. That song fucking slaps.
Yeah.
I think you were there, Steve, when I checked it out, were you?
I was, yeah. I remember you saying that you thought it was great. You really liked it, but then you were like, but it is a sad state of affairs that this is like one of the best songs of the year. Like, what's happened? Like, how is this the bar now? But you
was that
did
based off of your title though, as a kind of like?
Yeah, because unfortunately, you get a spoiler. Like, I'm like, this is one of the songs of the year. Like, wow.
You have expectations up here, but the song the song was really sick.
If you give that a few more listens as well, fucking, it's great. And
I need to check out the album. I haven't listened to it. Like, I sat down and listened to a metalcore album in a while. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, man. It sounds like either way, like it's kind of fun when even if you end up like the end result isn't like necessarily positive, you might get a single or 2 out of it that you'll like put in your playlist. But like when there's a lot of buzz around an album, it's always fun to just jump on and like discuss and see what people are actually like raving about, because like I can see the response for the album. So I guess there's a bit of excitement there regardless of whether or not I end up liking it, because it's like, okay, people are really enjoying this, so it's either I can have a good talking point to say why I don't enjoy it and why maybe people do enjoy it, or I just agree with everyone and it's sick. So hopefully it's the latter, and I just love it.
Yeah, It's
but
good.
with metalcore, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Just never know, man.
What about deathcore? Now, Steve, I'm going to continue to plug this band as much as I can, but I know you're not a fan.
Disembodied Tyrant.
Yeah, the thing is, this band dropped that EP, which I gave like 10 out of 10, which I barely do. It's extreme. It's so heavy. It's so in your face. It's like can be like a wall of sound for sure. But to me, it's some of the most creative deathcore that I've heard all year. And to me, they're setting the new standard. And it was only just like one guy who was doing the growls and guitars and bass and production, but he used like a drum machine. But now with the band getting so much hype, like my like a lot of our reactions, like Orion and stuff, and doing reactions for them, but also on TikTok, they're blowing up because these breakdowns are just so disgustingly like insane. And then because of the traction, they're now a full-fledged band. They got members from Fallujah, who are like a crazy prog tech death band, really good musicians, and now they're actually a full-fledged band, and they just dropped another EP, and it's just equally as insane. It's creative. It's so filthy and riffy. It's just like it's extreme like metal, so I don't expect you, Steve, to like it, but the band is getting a lot of hype. And also now they're touring with Shadow of Intent and Flesh God Apocalypse, which is like a pretty big lineup for them. Like and I just see so many people talking about them. I really think these guys are shaking up the deathcore genre, and they're way more exciting to me than like Lawrence Shore. Like I do enjoy Lawrence Shore here and there, but I do find that their albums just feel like one giant song, and they repeat their ideas a lot. With Disembodied Tyrant, every song has like these crazy sections that I never know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, they're like very, I think they stay very loyal to groove. Like from the songs I've heard, they like always find their way back. And I'd be similar enough. This one, I'm kind of like, how many tracks have you heard by them, Steve?
I think it's one. It's Winter, right?
Winter, right?
Which is like a cover like Vivaldi.
I fucking love that song so much.
That song's so cool with the video too.
Yeah, I think it's like that blend between the, like you mentioned, Burb, the really unpredictable nature of everything they do. Plus, you'll be like mind blown by what's going on. You're like, whoa, 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 what's happening here? And then they'll just fall back into a groove. And then it'll switch up again, and then they're falling back into a groove. And then they'll have like a moment that I'm not the biggest fan of. That will be like wall of sound, blast beats, and like the real like intense, deathcore vocals that I'm not the biggest fan of. But it's not too much of the song where I can kind of just like, okay, that actually kind of fits the purpose and the flow of the song. And then it goes back to the groove, or it goes back to some really cool like electronic fucking production moments where they throw it in and make it feel real fresh and modern. So yeah, that was the same. I was thinking that maybe it was a one and done album, or the EP was like going to be like a one hit wonder. But from what I've heard from the latest few songs they released, I heard the outro track to the latest. Is it a new EP they dropped, Herb? Sorry.
Yeah, it's a new EP, 3 more songs that they dropped, and that's on that you checked out. That fall riff at the end.
So yeah, I have to go back. I did like 15 songs on my stream, and that was my number one. I gave that an 8.7. I don't think it's as good as Winter, but it was like a really fucking sick song. But yeah, Steve, you look like you're trying to chime in there with the.
I have a plan.
Okay.
So it sounds. I've only heard one song once, and I respect your opinion enough that I need to spend more time with them, and I think I need to listen to more of them. And what I think I should probably do is like listen to either that song again like a couple of times to like really not to be like a first time listening, maybe kind of get into it a bit. And if I do that, I would ask the same of you folks to give 2 or 3 spins in a row to my favorite new band in the metal scene, which is Grinn. They're a new UK band, and the song that I love so much called All For You. It can be a little bit jarring on the first listen because there's some aggressive, like, handbrake turns in terms of tone and soundscape and the rest. If you give that a few loops, I think that will open up for you and be like, oh, fucking hell, this is amazing. So I'll delve more into Disembodied Tyrant. You delve more into Grinn.
How many songs does Grinn have? Because you donated, which thank you, by the way, for me to check out the song on a live stream.
You're welcome.
And I liked it, but that's the thing when you hype up things so much. So this is the same thing with Disembodied Tyrant. Like, oh, it's so insane. Like sometimes I should just say like, it's pretty good, Steve. You should check it out. Or you'd be like, oh, this was better than good.
The problem is my hyping it up was my own YouTube video. I didn't come into your stream and go like, this is the best fucking band I've ever heard. I went into your chat going like, listen, for context, they've only been here since May. Like, I'm just kind of going, and like, I was trying to bring your expectation down. Like, they're a new band.
Good idea. Yeah.
Right? But genuinely, and I remember when Drew checked them out, he's like, oh, fucking hell, Steve's here being like, oh, they're the most exciting new UK metal bands in Sleep Token. I see what you're doing. Like, I genuinely feel that way. Name a more exciting UK metal band since Sleep Token.
Loathe.
Since Sleep Token?
Oh, since Sleep Token? Like, that's newer?
Yeah, like since the advent of Sleep Token arriving, what's been a more exciting new UK metal band? I also don't think Loathe. I'm not on the Loathe train myself.
To me,
I don't know enough like lesser, and I don't know like a lot of the lower end.
Well, exactly.
I don't really care where they're from either. You know, it's not something I really look into at all. No, I hear your points. I do hear your points.
Yeah. No, I genuinely feel that way. I think they're immensely exciting because they're doing unusual and creative things with their songs musically, and there's a fucking incredible voice that comes through there, and there's a scream vocals through and there's drums with groove. Like, it's fucking glorious. I'm so excited about that.
Well, I've nearly fully agree with you on everything you're saying. Like, from my first exposure to Grinn was through their track prior, which I know
Silence.
your brother,
that's his favorite.
Silence.
Yeah.
Silence is so good. Their track, I don't know if that was their prior release, but that song is insane. That, to me, I don't know. It seems
that's probably more up Burb Street as well, I think.
The way we're going here, it seems more like maybe my tastes will align a little bit more with Burb on certain things.
Probably.
Because I don't personally think that even if you give that Disembodied Tyrant track more listens, I don't think we're ever going to get you with this. I think there's sometimes you just need to give up with, you know?
Yeah.
And,
like, I'm just saying, I've had one listen. That is not enough to be like, I don't know if I care about that, you know?
Yeah, see, when I heard it on the first listen, I lost my shit to it. So I think there's just certain things, like, I do hear you, like, sometimes you do have to hear some tracks a few times, but I can't really see you throwing down to something like this in Bloody Tyrant. I just...
no, I can't either.
I can't really, but the All For You track, I think it was really good. And, like, I think what I was saying when I checked it out was they have something special about them. You can just see it. It's like they're not afraid to completely go against all of the things we've just spoken about already with, like, the kind of, you know, metalcore by the books of just ticking boxes. It's like very different. It's like, what are they doing here? And sometimes that really pays off, like it did with Silence. I thought Silence was so unique and so fucking, it was just a really cool twist on metalcore. And then with the All For You track, I think it was done really well, but it just didn't connect with me as much. So if they can do that every second or third track where they have one absolutely amazing track and the other two I'm like indifferent to, then it's still going to be a really exciting band to follow, you know, as opposed to just
fair points,
standard metalcore, you know. I'd rather that way.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Silence is the song that you're talking about?
Yes.
Silence is the one I really like. And All For You is the one that Steve prefers. But you still like Silence though, Steve, right?
Yeah, Silence is great.
Yeah, like All For You is still a good song, but I had heard Silence first, and then Steve had brought the band back up to my attention because I kind of just liked Silence and moved on. I hadn't gone back to it, which was silly of me because it is such a good song. But yeah, I think Silence probably will be more up your street, bro.
Yeah, okay, I should probably check that out because All For You, I did like the creativity to it. The structure and the ideas were all kind of like different. It's a band that's trying not to be generic or cookie cutter, and I totally respect that. So I definitely enjoyed it in that regard, but like I found the certain pieces not really resonating together. Like I felt like the verses and choruses like were very disjointed, but there's also merit to liking that kind of songwriting. So to me, I enjoy the creativity and I'm intrigued, but I can't say that I like absolutely love the song.
Yeah.
Fair. Good place to be.
That was the one thing with me. I remember it now because I can't really remember the song in my head, but it was the transition from the verse to the chorus sounded so like abrupt. It was, I'd have to listen to it again, but just when Bird mentioned that, it kind of came back to me. I liked the verse. I didn't mind the chorus. It wasn't my favorite, but it was the transition from the verse to the chorus.
It's a wild chorus because the note they start with, you're like,
Yeah.
But when you know that's coming, when you know the song, it's like, oh, fuck yeah.
That was a good Tim Allen impersonation, by the way. You ever watch? You ever watch Home Improvement?
A long time ago. I'm more of a Santa Claus Tim Allen.
Oh, okay. Only very few will understand that, but that's okay.
Okay.
Moving on.
Other new releases. Poppy Drew, you have some interesting. I mean, it's kind of related to what we were talking about before, but your take on Poppy. It was an interesting discussion point, I thought, because it's like, are we hyped on Poppy because she's not necessarily started out in the metalcore scene, and therefore we're kind of applauding and going, "This is great for an entry person into the metalcore arena," or is this like, are we being kind? Or is this genuinely something that's good, or are we just wrong? By say we, like the people that really hyped about it. It's an interesting point because I'm sure.
Let me just before I get put on blast here, just by chance. So I actually have some thoughts about this after. So I think even just touching on what we've already discussed with like seeing someone else's thumbnail or seeing someone else's title. I think you do set expectations without, even if you like try and tell yourself you're being objective about something, you do have preconceived ideas about what's going to happen.
Yep.
Either be positive or negative. If you see my thumbnail that says 15-second scream, you're now expecting that. And then when that moment hits, it's not the same. Regardless of how good it sounds, you're still going to be like, well, I knew that was coming, so it's not that shock. So I think I'd seen yourself, Steve, and Burbs, and just everyone who was getting involved. And it seemed to be like fairly unanimously positive, which I don't think the song is that bad, but it just kind of, I think I was kind of disappointed, and I actually have a good few notes because I was like, I need to be prepared to defend myself here in case I get fucking jumped on here. So I think it's one, my maybe overly harsh critique of metalcore sometimes. Two, my experience with Poppy hasn't been that broad, and I've seen some comments and I've taken them on board. I guess one of the comments I've seen is that Poppy is an artist that has always been quite alternative and always very experimental, and now like she's doing a quite standard generic metalcore song, and now she's getting hate for doing something when she's actually always been the one that's been experimenting. So I completely get why people might be annoyed where it's like, oh, she can't fucking win whatever way she does it, because I'm not too versed in her discography, so that's on me to, I guess, critique her for being somewhat generic.
But that's fine. You only have your own context. You can't be. No one can be mad at you for that. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I guess the other point is that my first experience with Poppy, and I kind of had an inflated idea of what she was as well, or I guess in my head, I'm not going to say I had it like of what she was, because that sounds like it's objectively she's inflated and she shouldn't be as good. But in my head, my first experience and first time hearing Poppy was the Bad Omens feature, which for the most part, her like verses are very spoken word. It's not her like quite harsh scream, which I think this is the main point that I want to get onto. But it was Van, which I think is still a great song. It was really different. It was quite exciting at the time. It was a cool feature. Bad Omens were back. It was like, what's going on here? Who's Poppy? I was excited by it. Then we had the Suffocate track with Knocked Loose, which I think, with all due respect, Poppy does have huge moments in that song, and she does really like bring the song from, say, a fucking 9.5 to a 10. Like she brings it up just that extra level. I think even without Poppy, that song fucking rips. Like it's still such a good song.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. She still really plays her role really well. So there's my two experiences with Poppy so far. Then I checked out New Way Out, which is definitely like a step back in terms of overall creativity. Van was very modern and like, experimental. Suffocate was just an outright like hardcore, metalcore leaning banger. Ridiculous breakdowns. It was relentless. New Way Out then I did really enjoy. That was my next song I heard by her. But I think the chorus being so catchy just saved it for me. Other than that, I was kind of just a little bit indifferent. And then we landed on this track with the hype that I'd seen about it. And it just felt really like soulless or like lifeless. I don't know. I listened back again to just see, was I being too critical? I think just certain moments towards the end, like even her bleh, like the attempt at like, it just felt like, what's the point if you're just going to go bleh? Like, it was just like, bleh. It's like, what are we doing? Like, put your fucking soul into it,
I think there's a good chance she did into the mic, but I think that the mix of it might have been a little honed in, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit flat and didn't like,
Yeah. It was a New Way Out, the one that the second most recent single. I thought that was fine. Like a bit safe and a bit like kind of forgettable, to be honest. Like not bad. It was very well done, but it wasn't interesting. I came on board with Poppy years ago when she was fucking madly experimental in the I Disagree. Like, you got to hear the song Concrete. That's like where we're coming from with Poppy. And so I've liked her because I have all that context that she can be mad and all this shop. So I do like the change of pace of like a really, you know, well knit together, you know, solid sort of radio song as when it happens. But like even with that, I would agree that, you know, that most recent song, the 2 songs ago, was fine. And so my title was like, this is Poppy's best song in years, which is true because I've thought her most recent songs have been like fine.
Yep.
But I've loved her older stuff. So it's not like this is one of the best songs I've heard in years. It's just the best one that Poppy's done in years, in my opinion. Yeah. I think it was great. I really liked the song, but you're right. It's not necessarily the most memorable. I couldn't sing it to you now.
Yep. I actually watched your review, not the reaction, but Drew, at first I'm like, I found your like critique a little bit too harsh. I'm like, oh man, he's really going at it. But then when you were explaining, like, are we just kind of giving Poppy a pass? Like, because like if we didn't really know who she was and, you know, it's just a pretty safe metalcore song, I'm like, that's a fair point. That is a totally fair point. So I understand where you're coming from. And so with me going into Poppy, I had that context. I've heard her crazy experimental stuff. You know, she was very poppy, hence the name, and then also experiment like electronic and then new metal. So for her to work with Jordan Fish and Stephen Harrison from Fever 333 and like House of Protection, like it's cool to hear all these people work together on a metalcore song. And to me, I thought it was a cool track, and I kept referencing like, oh, this chorus sounds kind of Spirit Boxy. Oh, this verse sounds kind of Slipknotty. Oh, this breakdown sounds like old Architects. Like I'm hearing so many old ideas in a Poppy song. So because of that, it's not a groundbreaking song by any means. It's just borrowing ideas from metalcore from the past decade. So it's
contrived because of those? Or do you think those are intentional references they're putting in to like people will like this?
Yep. And then same with the Bled. Like a lot of it is just like a lot of cliches, but I do find that the structure had played around just enough to keep things interesting, to not feel so cookie cutter for me. But it's interesting that you mentioned that Poppy is also like, you know, she's already established name, so are we kind of giving her a pass? And I think that argument can be used for so many artists. And one that I can think of is Fit for Autopsy, where I think the new songs are good, but people are like absolutely raving about it. But say if we didn't even know who Fit for Autopsy was and it's just some new deathcore band, would people be raving about it as much? So I think it's a lot of that deals with reputation, the history of the artist. But if you're looking at the song objectively and not knowing anything about the artist, like it's kind of forgettable. But knowing it's Poppy gives you that context, like, oh my gosh, he's gone full metalcore. Now when I reviewed the song, I gave it 8 out of 10, I think, which is actually just like a very in the middle rating, you know, middle sounds like it should be 5, but to me 8 is something that how I rate, like out of 10, 8 is something that would be on Spotify. Like I'll listen to it a few times, but a 9 is something like, okay, you have to listen to this, and 10 is like no brainer, like listen to it right now. So 8 to me is just like a song I'll put on a Spotify playlist, like it's solid. So that's how I felt. It's just a solid track, and like, you know, the titles and thumbnails we just talked about earlier, but like going like Poppy went fucking full metalcore, oh my god, right? Like, you know, that's how titles and thumbnails are. But when you actually I think if, you know, we all know that once we watch our reviews, sometimes we're giving a lot more context to what we're feeling. So I thought, Drew, I saw that you got a lot of heat from that. And, you know, I feel bad because like I hate comments like that. People get really, really triggered easily. I think you didn't really deserve that, but you know how to handle it too. But I think it was just like, it was too much, bro. It was too much.
Get involved. I'll occasionally get involved in the comments and just, you know, clap back. I think one of my most enjoyable ones was, it was like someone was like asked me as if I knew Emily Armstrong personally, and I was like, hold on, let me just text her real quick. It was just like they were being kind of cheeky, and I was like, just fuck. I was like, hold on, let me just text her back real quick. I'll just see what she says about your comment. But yeah, no, I mean, like I did definitely think that like I do. It's weird because sometimes you have to battle with, like, if I want to be completely honest, but then you kind of put the video out and you see, because let's be honest, like the majority of the people that are going to watch our videos, if I do a video on Poppy, people who aren't interested in Poppy, who don't like Poppy, might not click the video. They don't really, like, you might get the odd, like I do have people that watch my videos that tell me in the comments that, oh, I watch all your videos regardless of who the artist is. But I know from doing this long enough that the majority of the people that watch my videos are going to be people that are specifically either fans or just genuinely interested in like what goes on with this particular band. So let's say 85% of the people that watch the videos are probably already like positively like speaking of Poppy, you know, elsewhere.
High likelihood.
So you get like really negative feedback when you speak out for the most part. Like if you know, this is like kind of, I guess, the toxic side of the reaction videos we've kind of touched on before, but like if you are you get this like horrible middle ground of, okay, look, I could be 1000% honest here and I'll see it really show up in the comments here, or I'll kind of like just be really neutral, which feels like you're kind of being really dishonest with yourself. So when you see the comments come in, it's kind of like, I guess over time, you just kind of learn that that's just how it works. Like if you're being, I'd rather have hate comments or people who just strongly disagree, and you have to kind of sit with it and be like, am I wrong here? Like, you know, I look back in the Poppy videos, like, was I just being really overly harsh? But like, I don't mind the song. It was just, you know, like we've discussed already, it's kind of like just falls into a lot of the metalcore tick boxes that get a bit old.
And when you're talking
to be totally honest, that's the because that's the only way. Here's the thing, you know, there's been a thing recently about YouTubers and metal reactors and stuff like burning out and the rest. The only way to not do that, I think, is to like be honest and do the thing that you genuinely feel. If you're feeling like in your videos you're having to hold yourself back a bit and sort of act a certain way, you're fucked. That's not sustainable, because your inner core being will be raging at you from the inside, and that will eventually explode. So far better, I think, to be very honest and just ignore the comments on that video. Just go, you know what? Because maybe if they're nasty, whatever, it says nothing about you and everything about the person that's putting that message out there. What's happened there is their love for a certain thing, which maybe they've tied their identity to, has been challenged. So they feel personally challenged, and they're feeling like they have to defend themselves against someone who has not attacked them personally. So it's kind of, it's a conversation you're not part of. You know, it's kind of how I see those.
And people respect you more too. So in the long run, you might get the loud minority that will be in the comments too. But I think ultimately people respect the fact that you're being honest and not loving everything too. So there's that to take into account. And I just want to say, like, one thing you mentioned is that you said that am I wrong? And like one thing to keep in mind is, like, you know, there's no such thing as being right or wrong when you're actually talking about music. So don't even like ever like question that. Like, I might even do it for videos like opinions I was wrong about, but realistically, there's nothing you can be wrong about. You're just being honest about how you feel about a song, and
at that exact moment as well. Like it's, these things can change.
And your opinion is limited to the information you have at the time. If you've only heard those 3 songs of Poppy, you're going to have a certain thing about that. If I've only heard, let's say, 15 to 20 deathcore songs in my life, then I'm only going to have that context going into like Disembodied Tyrant. There's like, I'm not going to be able to see it in the same way as someone who spent years with deathcore. Like, it's impossible. So my opinion is not invalid. It is a valid opinion for someone who's only heard 15 to 20 songs of deathcore. That's just what it is. And that sometimes is what makes it interesting. And to relate a bit, I took so much fucking hate for my take on Emily Armstrong, because I was basically, I don't think she's amazing. And some of the comments were completely irrelevant. Obviously, there's a Scientology, whatever. But people going like, I can't believe that you wish she was just like Chester. Like, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
That's what they've come in against. Anyone who doesn't like her thinks that's why they don't like her, and they try to put that on me. It's just not what happened. So you have to go like, that's not actually correct or valid. But like, it is the most disliked video I've ever fucking had.
Like,
really?
I got the impression, Steve, from your video today when I watched, because normally you do a pretty quick job of like,
oh, I'm so cagey about it now.
I wanted to ask you about this because, like, I got the impression this was the first time you've actually like had, you'll always get like the odd disagreement comment, but I feel like this was the first time, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time you've had like a large number of people that have like strongly disagree with what you're saying.
Not the first time, because years ago when I was doing all manners of music, I did BTS and some other big acts as well. And I got fucking, because I was calling out the autotune, I wasn't digging it, and people went absolutely wild. So I'm not new to that, but I think what I'm new to it being for a band or artist that I know very well and really like. And I was just like, hang on, I have context that's, I think, valid here. And my point of view is not that this is shit. Like, actually, I was largely very positive, because I generally am. But but yeah, unless you're going gaga for it, people go nuts. But you can kind of help yourself a little bit if your thumbnail and title are alluding to the fact you're like, wow, new song, wild, amazing, and then you're like, actually, I'm not really sure I like this. Then people will be more, I think, let down by that and more angry, more likely to comment negatively, potentially. So it's okay, if you're worried about, well, most of the viewers for Poppy are only going to watch because they're Poppy fans. But if your thumbnail suggests like, which you kind of have done this, I think, like, am I just not understanding Poppy right, or like, am I missing something, or like, why am I not enjoying this? Then the people who don't enjoy Poppy or who are not really sure about it will watch that and get, what will be seen to them a very balanced opinion with, some nuance within it, and there's value in that, I think.
Yeah, I think like, because obviously your opinions in that video that you did was of the live stream of Emily Armstrong's announcements, and obviously the first track was the Emptiness Machine. No one knew what the song was, so it was kind of like, okay, everyone's kind of neutral on it. It's like, they're not comparing what Chester would have sounded like on a song. So
yep.
I also just think that like live videos just don't ever really translate from someone's like phone or like a YouTube live stream. It was
brave of them.
I never really got the idea of like that, people are so high on like certain live videos. It's like, people go to these live events for a reason. It's because you're actually there in the flesh. You're never really gonna get that same feeling, near to that same feeling, when you're watching it live. So like, I don't see why people are so open arms. Like, as a logical person, I watch your reaction to it and I go, like, I get where he's coming from. It doesn't sound the best in the world. It's not going to sound the best in the world. As a rollout, they had to have thought that this may have slightly backfired if this is like going to be such a big deal. They knew there was going to be hundreds of thousands of eyes, millions of eyes.
It was a risk.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, it's just... Yeah, slightly off topic, but just on what you said about the BTS fans, it just brought me back the most PTSD of years ago, man. Nicki Minaj fans.
Oh yeah,
brother. They were trying to dox me. Like, they were creating fake Instagram accounts of my sister, like posting crazy shit. Like, I kind of played it off, like, still replying to the comments, and like, I think I just like fanned the flame too much.
Oh, no.
It was getting out of hand. It was actually getting to the point where I was like, this could actually affect my real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So yeah, stay away from Nicki Minaj reactions unless you're going to be overwhelmingly positive, by the way.
Yeah, I think all fandoms are like that. Sometimes I think the metal scene can be quite toxic, but I think, yeah, just like the Nicki Minaj thing, but it can go to video games too. Like, if you piss off the wrong crowd, or even sports, like, with their teams, people are very, very like opinionated and feel strong emotions to their music and to their art. And for me, like, a recent thing that happened to me where I took some heat was, in hindsight, like, this, I should have expected this, but in all honesty, I had no idea that this video would get as much heat as it would. It was OG metalcore versus modern metalcore, which on paper, I'm like, oh yeah, of course this would take some heat. But I have done videos like this in the past. I've done like, old deathcore versus modern deathcore. But for this one, this is actually a second video that I've done. I've already done this topic before, so it's a recycled idea. And I'm like, in the beginning of my video, I put like a little title card saying like Burb's notes and saying like, my opinion doesn't matter. This is why I did it live, so other people can share their opinions. This is just for fun, and then to also show you guys new music. And that's why I let the music play and I play clips. So it's not just me talking, because I want people to discover new bands or old bands. Holy crap. People did not give a shit if they're discovering anything. They don't care. People don't care. They're just like, how dare you like Alpha Wolf more than Trivium? And I'm just like, I don't know. I sometimes like Alpha Wolf a little bit more, and sometimes I like Trivium a little bit more. Like, I was just on that period of time, like, I liked Alpha Wolf, but people got so mad in the comments. And one of them was, I put the OG Killswitch Engage versus Spirit Box, which I think is actually a really fun discussion, because like, you can argue Spirit Box is like the new goats of metalcore, really. Getting Grammy nominated, and Killswitch Engage was one of those pioneering metalcore bands back in the day. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a Spirit Box fan. Like, I love what Spirit Box is doing. They're Grammy nominated too. So I'm going to take Spirit Box over Killswitch Engage. And apparently Reddit had a field day. They were talking shit about me on Reddit. Someone in my Twitch live stream was like, yeah, they were talking shit about you. I'm like, I don't even need to know. I don't want to look at it. Like, those people just like, they'll never share anything positive too. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like, these forums or anything will never talk about positive things from a lot of the just in general, they don't like to share positive things. But if something like pisses them off, oh yeah, let's bring it to other people's attention. So yeah, I took a lot of heat from that, not just on YouTube comments, but on Reddit too.
Shit, man. I mean, you know, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered which way you came down on it. On your decisions, like the other fan base would be like, "That's outrageous."
It doesn't,
like,
yeah. So in 2020 hindsight, that video was doomed to just piss off anybody. But the grand scheme of things that people really listen to me is that I'm just trying to like help people discover new bands, and it's just a fun topic. It's not to be taken so seriously. Yeah. But
it's a fun discussion. That's why we have this podcast, is to chat these things through. And you know, it is so different when you're doing this in a forum or on X or the comment section than if you're face to face with people. Because what I'm finding when I'm going to gigs, everyone's fucking lovely. The metal crowds, the rock music crowds, are the most chill, friendliest, kindest people I've ever like gone to events with, other than maybe like something that, I don't know, the old biddies would go to if you go to another bowling event. I don't know. But like if I went to NF, NF was fucking horrible. Like the crowd there, no one gives a fuck about personal space. They're all jostling into you. They're like, I'm getting the best view from my phone. Everyone's phone is out. It's like, what is this?
Really?
Yeah, but like metal gigs are fucking great. Everyone's lovely.
Yeah, they like to talk a lot of shit online, but they're actually nice in person.
Yeah. They're all little puppy dogs, but they'd like to be big old, bulldogs, and that's why they listen to metal. It's like
people on Reddit don't go to shows though; they don't leave their basements. That's just how it is.
And Twitter,
they're just fucking.
I group both of those communities together. I feel like they really think the same a lot. They're usually pretty negative.
Way more underground though. It's like
yeah.
It's like even if there's a positive topic on Reddit, there'll just be arguments in the like responses and shit. It's just the worst.
Oh, yeah.
I used to frequent r/metalcore a lot actually, and I was like, I actually got annoyed with the community for anyone that had a other like opposing opinion to something. It would get downvoted to the bottom. Like, how is this good for discussion? How is this good for critiquing music or anything? Like, obviously, there's no right or wrong when it comes to music, but I also want bands to not be generic and push themselves. So it forced me to start a channel because I was so tired of that community. And it's just kind of funny now the community's like talking shit about me.
Yeah, you raise your head above the parapet and then they're trying to take it off.
Yeah. But I know we're talking a lot, but there's one thing that we haven't talked about that's actually pretty big news, maybe so we can force it in the thumbnail. But Dave Grohl. Grohl, he cheated on his wife, and people are upset because the good image of Dave Grohl, everyone's lovable rock star, is actually
the nicest man in rock.
The nicest man in rock is actually not as perfect as it seems, and he actually has a kid with some other woman too. So, to me, I wasn't really shocked by this. Foo Fighters was one of my favorite bands when I was like getting into music back in the day.
I still love the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, man, same. Everlong to me is one of the best songs ever written. So I love Foo Fighters, and I do like Dave Grohl, but like putting these people on these pedestals and just thinking that they're always perfect is just blows my mind. Like, no one is perfect, and now like almost trying to cancel Foo Fighters, which good luck, that's not going to happen. But I just I don't even need to know this. The fact that Dave Grohl put it out before like news tabloids even mentioned it too was another thing. It's like he needs to save grace before other people talk about it. So it's just I didn't even need to know this information. Like, I don't care what you do in your personal business. Just write more songs like Everlong, please.
Yeah. Like, do I think that, it's a good course of action for yourself and those around you to have a kid outside of marriage? No, I probably wouldn't recommend that. But does him doing that mean that I don't like his music? No, it doesn't matter. There's someone, I think I saw it on X or Threads or whatever the fuck. Someone post about that, like, I can't believe this. I totally changed my mind about this Foo Fighters. And someone replied being like, do you like David Bowie? Like, don't look up David Bowie. Like, this is like one of the lowest things. Like, he basically was dating a child. Like, but in our current world, fucking anything is there. People are waiting to cancel people.
Yeah,
one day,
the
three of us will be canceled for some shit we don't. It's like we have no idea what yet.
Let's fast track it. Let's do it right now. Let's go.
But here's the thing. The people who are throwing stones right now, in 20 years, society in 20 years will look back at whatever they did public and go like, I can't believe you thought that was okay. You're canceled.
Yeah.
Because things move on. Like, it's,
Yeah.
you just do your best.
Yep.
Must have been a slow media day for fucking that to be a thing. Like,
probably not. He's so fucking famous. Like,
it was massive news. Like, I know it's so minuscule because like it doesn't pertain to us, but that's it shows how something so irrelevant can be relevant.
And what's funny as well, it's like
So
Dave Grohl just basically revealed that he is a rock star. Is what he is. Like, because that was the old school idea of a rock star. Someone's fucking around and getting lots of women and the rest. And he's like, we're just like, oh, this rock star is like a rock star. Oh my God.
Should be a headline the other way around. He hasn't cheated on his wife. That should be the headline, you know what I mean?
Well, I guess that was the headline for many years.
Like, that would be more surprising to me. Like, it's just,
yeah,
I don't fucking know.
No, it's a shame. Like, it's sad for, for those that there'll be a fallout and the rest, but it's like, yeah, I don't know.
That would be a good tabloid. Just like something like, I can't think of like a musician, but like Keanu Reeves still has not cheated on a partner. Or something just like,
Keanu Reeves is still breathtaking. I mean, on that, who do you think, and we'll find out in 20 years if we're right or wrong, who do you think is the least likely to get canceled in the rock metal music scene? Who seems the most dependably wonderful and decent human being from what we know?
To me, it doesn't matter because, again, everyone is imperfect. Dave Grohl could have been that answer, right? So to me, just like everyone is fucking cancelable. Like,
if Dave Grohl is, then everyone is.
Maybe someone that is just so well respected and has such a high moral compass. Even then, I feel like they have extra pressure to be like, I feel like that's the thing with Keanu Reeves. I'm like, man, if Keanu Reeves fucks up, like I wouldn't want to be in his position, like just like this almost godlike,
no one
persona.
can maintain that,
and then no one can maintain that. So that's why I'm just like, no one's perfect, and even Keanu Reeves, which sounds weird to say.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah,
it's just generally accepted he's basically Jesus on earth. Like, it's fucking insane.
Exactly. I'm trying to think of I would be very upset. This is just a personal biased opinion, but Dustin Kendrick from Thrice, he's married with children, and he was also a pastor too. He's someone who's very well spoken. He's just a very humble, nice, pleasant person, and his music is incredible. His lyrics are thought provoking. And he is a religious person, but he doesn't push his religion in his music. It's very subtle Christian themes. So that's something I really like about Dustin Kendrick. So if he was, to me, he could be one of the least canceled people that I can think of. Like, I can't see him doing anything bad, but if he cheated on his wife, like that would suck. That would suck, but I don't want or need to know that too. I'm still going to listen to Thrice music, and maybe he's going to write some amazing lyrics on how much he screwed up and his, the ways that he's going to change himself and inspire others.
Do you know who will never get canceled for sure for saying anything wild?
Ronnie Radke.
Vessel, because he doesn't say a fucking word.
I was going to fucking say, that was literally, no one, like, I mean, some people know who he is, but like, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, and they have to try and connect to the characters. If he goes out and murders someone, it would still be hard to connect. You know what I mean? Like, it would have to be established in the court of law that this famous musician is this person tied to Sleep Token. It would still be quite hard to do, I don't think that would immediately come up. Whereas if someone like really famous that goes by their actual name does it, they're instantly gone. So logic would suggest that the hardest person would be someone who was masked that the majority don't know, which would be Sleep Token. That was literally who I was thinking. I was like, yeah, that's it. Or it has to be someone like old, maybe with a family already established. We can't rely on like the younger, up and coming like bands, maybe in the metalcore space, or bands that are on the rise quickly. They're young, impressionable. Something might pop up.
It's a really good point. I was just thinking, like, what if there was some dirt that came out from Vessel's like history or something, and like he wouldn't even be able to comment on it.
I think he would. I think if it came to it.
But imagine, just like, do you have any thoughts? It's just like nothing.
It just goes.
No, Sleep Token would do some big, like, cryptic
Yeah.
like worship post about like
Yeah,
some
their
like,
apologies. Yeah, just so cryptic.
yeah, we regret to announce that Vessel has in fact cheated on his beloved. Like it'd be some real.
It'd be a
like,
scavenger hunt
Cracked it
through
3 months later.
runes.
Yeah.
Oh
well, folks, I have loved chatting. I could chat for longer. It's been a while, but I keep going. But we could probably think of something to round up on perhaps here. Going back to more positive things, who do you think is a band that is under the radar that you think legitimately in the next 3 to 5 years we could be all going like, oh, of course, everyone's talking about this band. They're fucking massive.
The Home Team, and it's still underrated. You know, people do know the name in the scene a little bit, but I think they have potential to be massive. And Disembodied Tyrant continues to pick up a lot of traction in the deathcore scene that I think they're going to continue to get bigger. But yeah, those would be the 2 bands.
Drew?
I don't really have one. I was thinking about it throughout the podcast, but I really couldn't think of anything. Are we talking like mainstream success or just a band that will be big in metalcore? Or like
not necessarily metalcore. I mean, you know, who's the next Sleep Token? No, that's too big.
I think for the most, you have to think of like a really unique factor or like star power.
Let's go with the barometer of like Spirit Box level of sort of fame from our scene.
From the scene, I think it makes it a little bit easier because they don't have to like peek out of the metal scene, which is obviously an enigma. That's very hard to do, to like crush through the, you know, the dome of protection that is like metal and get out into the stratosphere, you know?
Yes.
So it's probably easier to just like say a band that could potentially be that really big. I have to look at like star power of like an individual. I think Unprocessed, just with Manuel. That's the first one that comes to mind. I just think he has like very big star power.
Good shout.
Handsome lad, just stupidly talented. His vocals seem to be getting better. Their videos are all starting to come together. Like it just feels like the band are kind of finding their own. Alt is the kind of other obvious one, but I feel like maybe a couple more years. I think they're still quite like they haven't even released their first album yet. But I mean, we're talking like Spirit Box level. I think. I don't know. I just think there has to be like Courtney's obviously the star power there, you know, in terms of the overall metal space. So if I think of like who could potentially go to that level because of an individual like a frontman or something, I think Manuel. House of Protection seem to be doing really well.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard question, man. It's weird because you spend so much time talking about different bands, and then whenever it comes down to asking about which band you should do, I can't think of any.
They all
bands.
leave the brain. Yeah. Alt is a good shot. I thought of them, but then I wonder if their current style, it's probably not going to exceed the dome of metal.
That's
niche.
how I feel. Like I love Alt, but I can't see them being the next big thing.
Unless they change their style, which they may do over time. But
yeah, well, do you know what? Actually, I want to drop something here.
Oh.
It's pure speculation, by the way. Like, so just whatever. But I think it was actually from your podcast, Steve. I think we already discussed it. And I'm completely speculating here. So if anyone from the 2 bands that I'm about to mention here see this, I'm just guessing here. So I don't know if it, but make it happen, please. Maybe I can be the spark here. But Steve's podcast started to like my spidey senses started to tingle when I was listening to Steve's podcast with Ole from Alt. Ollie mentioned that they could have like a really unique collab or some point, maybe next year or something along those lines. And I was like, who could he mean? And then I remember on Unprocessed, or sorry, I've given it away. I've fucking ruined the punchline. But on Alt's latest, or on Alt's Aquila track, Manuel Gardner Fernandez from Unprocessed commented on that. And Alt were like, collab, ? And then I'm sure it went to DMs after that. It's pure speculation here.
Or they were trying to tease it.
But but then they mentioned it on your podcast, Steve. So I was like, oh, I'm Inspector Gadgeting this right now. I'm getting to the fucking roots of this.
That would be sick.
That would be awesome.
I can't even imagine how that would sound, but that would break.
Lots of guitar.
Yeah, just unreal.
Unprocessed and Polyphia was a massive collab. That one makes a lot of sense, but with Alt, it's like, how?
I have no idea how it would work.
How would they do it?
That's why I want to see it.
for collabs, like if I could just like throw in my 2 cents, like I've always wanted Health because they always do a lot of collabs with everyone. The Poppy song, by the way, their collab with Poppy is fucking amazing. It's like my favorite Poppy song. But Health with Giarta, like a fall with like that electronic industrial sound would be fucking wild to me.
Like Mirror, the way Mirror did it.
Mirror is too abrasive and just like Health
True.
is a little bit more doomy, and it's like a little bit more like it's like a I can't, disco is the shitty word, club, I guess. I don't know.
Industrial dance music.
Yeah. They've gone industrial dance and they're weird, and then with Giarta's weird riffs, it would just be fucking wild.
Yeah.
But Steve, let's hear it.
My picks, a Grinn.
The new Sleep Token, man. I can see
if
it now.
Grinn keep like writing the quality they're doing and they make that consistent, they could absolutely translate in a big way. They're on my list. Encore, I think, they seem to be getting bigger and bigger. They're about to tour the UK and Europe next year with support from Conquer Divide, who are like a decent, doing well band as well. So they're fucking going strength to strength. They're going to do very well, and they're already doing pretty fucking well. So this is kind of cheating, but Bill Murray is going to conquer the world. I think
he just scrolled up my Spotify there, and I was like, "Oh, Steve's gonna mention Bill Murray." As you said it.
Yeah. That's like the same debate that I have for the home team. They're already kind of like doing pretty well, but like, I feel like.
But most people, your friendship group, you're like, have you ever heard Bill Murray? They'd be like, who?
Yeah.
But that's for now, and I think that's gonna come.
Bill Murray and the home team tour would be awesome.
That would be awesome. People are asking for Bill Murray and Beartooth because the old Attack days.
Yeah, that'd be cool too.
But then it's like, are they too similar? I don't know.
I think that makes sense. Beartooth, Bill Murray, and the home team is honestly a really good tour. They all have like a somewhat similar feel and audience.
Yeah.
But then again, just to, I guess, to round it up or whatever, but just on Burb's initial point about alt, I'm just thinking now that the counterpoint to maybe alt being a little bit too specific and like too niche to like go to say Spirit Box's levels is that Knocked Loose are one of the biggest bands in the scene as well, and they're so, I would say, so inaccessible for the most part.
Correct.
Yep.
So
Good
I mean,
point.
it's just
But also, like Sleep Token, when I first heard them, I'm like, they're brilliant. I really like them. Never in a million years did I think they would be massive because they're progressive and like their earliest stuff was 9-minute long songs with the first fucking 5 minutes was like chill, ambient, and a voice occasionally. And then they did this like Thali break. There was no template saying that's going to work on a bigger scale. And yet, here we are.
And that's such a good point about Knock Loose, because with all, like Knock Loose, one of their biggest selling points is also the vocals. They're so different, and a lot of people make fun of it, but it's definitely a big standout thing. With alt, Robin's vocals are incredible. He continues to flex, and I can see them possibly being like, maybe not Spirit Box, but maybe like Architects, where they got really big with Lost Forever, Lost Together, All Our Gods Abandoned Us. Now they're huge with a whole different sound, but maybe they can follow in that same pathway, be like the big metalcore band and then try expanding. He obviously can sing, and try flexing his vocals into something that's a little bit more accessible too in the future. Like this is 5 years from now or something, or 6.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's all very exciting. I can't wait to see how all of our predictions play out.
Should we gamble on it?
No, because I have not got any money. Well, thank you, folks, for this chat. It's been wonderful. And thank you to whoever is tuning in right now. Do make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. Join the 1,000th strong that are here thus far. And we've got some exciting episodes we're planning to come up in future. We're lining up some more guests. We've had guests in the past, a couple of very exciting ones coming up. So stay tuned for those very soon. But cheers, folks, for the chat. We'll see you next time.
Peace.